Welcome, everybody, to the Movie Guide Podcast. I'm Greg,
I'm Jordan.
and we just saw The Walk, directed by Robert Zemeckis, with Joseph Gordon-Levitt starring. What'd you think, Jordan?
I thought it was good. I thought that the first hour and a half feels really stretched out. I felt it was a little too long. The last 30 minutes is fantastic, obviously, once you actually get to the climax and the culmination of all this work. But I just felt like there wasn't enough material really to work with, which was a little bit of a fear of mine going in, that had you make a 2-hour movie out of a one walk across the World Trade Center. So that was an issue for me. And also it's got a weird narration to it. It's Joseph Gordon-Levitt talking directly to the audience, standing on top of the Statue of Liberty, and I feel like that's a really weird way to do it. It's almost like he's telling the story, but instead of one just narrating it or doing it in a way that he was talking to another person in the movie, maybe telling the story. But instead, the breaking of the fourth wall really, it took me out. And it was, if it had done it once, maybe like just in the beginning, it might have been okay. But it kept doing it, and every time it would take me out of the movie a little bit. So that really bothered me and brings it down.
I didn't mind the narration. I think it was an interesting, style choice. I don't want to see it in every movie, certainly not. But I felt like this is not a story that is, because, well, maybe I was going to say audiences kind of already know the story. I guess they don't. But because it's much more the material of a documentary rather than your traditional movie, I felt like you had to mix the two. So you have some traditional storytelling elements for a film mixed with a documentary style narration.
Yeah.
And the backdrop of the Statue of Liberty and behind him the two towers, I felt like that was a little on the nose. It was a little too much.
It was a lot. But one thing I will say about especially the two towers in general is the CG in this movie is fantastic. There
were very few moments where the fact that they were on a building stood out to me, where maybe they weren't on a building and probably on a set somewhere.
Right.
If not for the fact that I knew the buildings didn't exist anymore, I would wonder how much they actually filmed on it and how much they actually filmed off of it. And I'm sure they recreated partial parts of those roofs just for the film.
And boy, do you feel like you're up there when he's walking across it. It's intense to watch as an audience member. I couldn't even imagine.
Oh, yeah, this is a butthole clencher for sure.
Yeah, it's I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. So that was definitely the best part of the movie. The last 30 minutes, probably.
I thought it was helpful to know why he wanted to become a high wire walker and sort of the relations. They didn't focus much on his family, but you kind of get the sense that the struggles he had with his at least his father not being interested in him being a high wire walker, kept calling him a clown.
It's really thrown in there though. Like, I get what you're saying, but if you're gonna develop that, you really have to develop it. And I feel like it was really just thrown in there sporadically. And I don't.
Right. Well, I guess what I'm saying is, he needs some motivation, because if he's just some crazy guy, if that's all he wanted to do was walk the towers and he has this fervor to do so, then he's just a crazy guy, right? So you need to have a little bit of backstory, and I see your point is the movie overdid it. The problem with that is that you run into a film that is only an hour long.
Well, yeah, no, so but I think you could have cut it to a 90-minute, 100-minute movie.
How long was it?
It's a touch over 2 hours. I think it's 2 hours of 4. I think.
I see what you're saying.
So if you cut it down to 90 or 100 minutes, I think you speed up the pace a lot, and it doesn't feel so thin. I didn't feel a lot of chemistry between Joseph Gordon-Levitt and whoever the actress was that played his girlfriend. I didn't really think their moments worked very much.
It focused on the act of climbing and doing the wire and planning. And
so,
all that.
I mean, obviously it's a true story, so you can't really take the romance out of it, but I feel like you could have really made that a minute point instead of trying to make it a big point, but it not really working.
Well, I wonder how important was the romance, or their romance, for the entire progression of their plan. Like, if they hadn't had the romance, maybe because they're sort of the core of the whole plan. If he didn't have this, muse, shall we say, pushing him forward, would he have had the desire to go on all the way and had the stamina to make it? Because, I mean, they had to endure, especially near the end when they were living in New York City and actually buying equipment and paying for things and planning. Like, they're getting in deep at that point.
Right.
It's easy to get scared off.
Yeah. I also think it would have looked a little better if they had a little better chemistry. I didn't quite feel it between them.
So I'm curious then, are you in favor this is a general question. When something like this comes up in a movie, when it's based on a true story, are you in favor of altering the tale to make it more palatable to an audience when it comes to a love story? Because in real life, we all know love stories don't work out like they do in
Right.
films.
I think it really depends on the story it's based off of. Something like this, where, like you said, it might be necessary. Their relationship might have been an integral part. If it's something, I don't know anything off the top of my head to compare it to, but it's not necessary to the story and it can be left off, then, that's fine for me.
The only one that comes immediately to mind, which maybe isn't the best example because I don't think it really happened, but the Jack Rose thing in Titanic. That whole love story was wholly invented to build the Titanic
Right.
around the rest of the story of the Titanic around these two. But in this case, you would have been in favor of exaggerating it to make it fit more with the tale of the film.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't.
Okay.
I'm not sure which way I would have liked it. I just know the way that it was
Gotcha.
in the movie.
It wasn't
didn't
enough
quite-
for you.
It didn't quite work for me. I would definitely recommend seeing it in theaters, though. It's been out a few weeks now, but if you haven't seen it yet, see it in theaters.
It's probably
in-
about to go out, so yeah, you've got like a week left, maybe.
In IMAX if possible.
Yeah.
And
I was about to bring it up. I know where you're going.
I hate 3D with a passion. It bugs me. It gives me a headache. I don't like it at all. I will refuse to see any movie in 3D. I think this one would have been a good movie to see in 3D. I think it would have.
Yeah.
I think it would have added that extra depth element to when he's looking down.
There's not much in the first hour and a half of the film.
No, but when
It's
he's
all the
when he's
last half.
actually walking, I feel like it would have added that depth to make you really feel like you were up there.
So what did you think about the very specific? This is a 3D movie shot.
Oh yeah, we talked about it. We were the only ones in the theater, so we
Yeah.
were talking the whole time. But there's a specific moment, I won't say exactly what it is, but where you can tell that the shot is made for a 3D audience.
It happens a couple times.
Well, there was one in particular.
There's the
that
arrow shot.
I actually
And
mentioned.
then the one you're talking
I
about.
actually mentioned was. I don't like it. It's too on the nose for me. It feels really cheap.
Well, and it doesn't work later because
Yeah.
I mean, at least now in 2015, not everyone has a 3D television in their house. So if you sit down to watch this thing,
Or just like us, just in regular
yeah,
2D.
and here's
movie
this
theater,
like obligatory 3D shot.
and it just feels unnecessary and forced.
Yeah.
And I mean, this obviously is not the only movie guilty of it, but it was definitely very on the nose in this movie. What would you score it out of 5?
High fours.
High 4s, really?
Yeah,
That
I really
high?
enjoyed it.
That's. I'm much lower. I think I'm gonna go.
So it depends on what we talk about. Rewatchability. Do I want to see this film immediately?
Just
again?
overall,
No,
overall
not
as a
really.
score.
Yeah.
High 4s.
I'll settle at a 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5. I'm gonna go 3.25 out of 5. Partially because I didn't enjoy a lot of elements of it. I loved the last 30 minutes or so, but a lot of elements I didn't enjoy. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again. I mean, I might, but
So for you, this is a find it on cable and don't change the channel kind of movie? Or would you change the channel?
I don't know. I might watch it. If it was towards the end of the movie, I might stay on the channel. But if it's towards the beginning, I don't want to sit around through all the other stuff again. So it's a low 3s for me. I think I gave Bridge of Spies a 3.5.
So do you like this better? I didn't see Bridge of Spies.
Bridge of Spies is a better movie. I think I'll rewatch that one again for sure. So I think just obligatory, I have to give this one a lower score. Even though it is a good movie, I recommend seeing it, and I recommend seeing it in theaters while you can. But yeah, 3.25.
There's plenty of movies I've seen that are not rewatchable. They're great the first time. The Sixth Sense, for example, generally speaking, I like the
I
movie.
can rewatch that. That's one movie
I
that
have and I would again, but that qualifies as like for a lot of people probably not. The other one that I really liked that I probably would never see again is Journey to the Center of the Earth 3D with Brendan Fraser. In 3D in the theaters once. I really enjoyed it.
I'll never see
Repeating
that. I'll never see that movie again because it was terrible.
Well, but
That's why
anyway,
I'll never see that movie again.
I bring it up as an example.
But yeah, thanks for listening. We're gonna try and do more of these as we see more movies. Just short little recap reaction videos. I mean, we literally just walked out of the theater. We're gonna try and do stuff like this more often. In addition to the podcast, you can also check out full reviews, full written reviews, and other content at my website at jordanmovieguide.com. Thanks for listening. I'm Jordan.
I'm Greg.
Talk to you next time.